Her story tells others that if you persevere, if you're honest with yourself, that you can actually achieve most goals that you set.
This podcast is part of the Blueberry Network, where listeners and podcasters come together. Find out more at blueberrywithnoease.com.
The Eat Sleep Right podcast is brought to you by generous grant from the Built on Dreams Media Network, with additional funding by the Sims Media Foundation, and from the generosity of listeners like you.
Stand by, please. Rolling on 6 now. On 6.
Welcome to episode 38. If you enjoy the Eat Sleep Right podcast, or if you had your own success in writing, I'd like to hear from you. Tell me about yourself and your story, and I may get back to you and have you as a guest on the Eat Sleep Right podcast. If you have any questions or comments, anything at all, please write me. The email address is comments@eatsleepright.net. Thanks for leaving me a short message about the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Once again, the email address is comments@eatsleepright.net. I am delighted to have Shelah Moss with me today to talk about Florida Frenz, a client of Shelah's on the Autistic Spectrum, who wrote a book entitled How to Be Human, Diary of an Autistic Girl. One sunny day in August, Shelah went to meet a new client. She had been working with autistic children for about a decade using a developmental approach based on floor time. When Shelah got to the client's house, she met an adorable 4-year-old girl, Florida, with a mop of hair and bright eyes that saw the world in black and white and red. The black and white part were the rules and rigidity that she lived by. The red was there because she had decided that red was her favorite color, so she believed that her clothes should be red, her food should be red whenever possible, and she would only use the color red for her art projects. Shelah Moss, welcome to the Eat Sleep Right podcast. It's great having you with me today.
Thank you, Adam. It's great to be with you.
Tell me, how did you first meet Florida?
I was referred to her parents as a play therapist. I met them at the house as a prospective therapist.
Can you give me a brief history of Florida?
Florida was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, and the IQ test showed her as being mentally retarded. And her parents then, as soon as she was diagnosed, started on a journey of finding the proper therapy for her. Within a year, they had ABA therapists, which is a form of behavioral therapy that's often used with autism. They had an occupational therapist and they had a speech therapist. But they felt the program was lacking, so they wanted me to come and teach her how to pretend. This was a 4-year-old child who had never pretended.
You used the term mentally retarded. Is that still the way they refer to it, or is that really a rather older term, and has it been replaced with perhaps either mentally challenged or anything else, or is it really does it really come down to that?
It really is a diagnostic term. I have a child that truly is mentally retarded, and that is his diagnosis. However, it is not considered politically correct any longer to use that diagnostic term. We've had this discussion when the book was being published. That is the diagnosis that she was given. It's an appropriate diagnostic expression. If it offends some people, it's still the truth. Another criticism that the book has received is the title, because it's a diary of an autistic girl. That is also no longer politically correct, nor diagnostically correct. The term is now a child with autism or a child on the autistic spectrum. So we can get into a lot of trouble worrying about what is politically correct. And I think that the truth should just shine through.
How old is Florida now?
16.
When did she first start writing?
Florida was a late writer. She had dysgraphia, which is the inability to actually physically write. She also had a reading disability. She began to write at age 4 when I met her. However, she was not really a proficient writer until about the age of 9.
When did Florida first decide she wanted to write a book?
By the age of 12, she had decided she wanted to write a book. Her writing skills dramatically improved in 5th grade when she was around 10, and we focused on that.
Did she say or communicate to you that she wanted your help in writing the book, or would you communicate this for me?
Actually, the genesis of the book, my sister is a writer. We had done some social skills work, some of which was based on what we would read from my sister's books. My sister then took the watercolors that are in this book and was doing teacher presentations with them and had an enormous response to them. Florida was actually asked to put this into a book form. This is not necessarily the book that she was dreaming of, and she actually has other books that she's dreaming of writing, but this book was asked for her to write.
How did you become involved with Florida in the writing of the book, as well as her spokesperson?
I have always been involved with Florida and the writing that she does for pleasure, for school, for herself to be published. It was just a natural link for me to be involved in helping her get this book published.
Were you with Florida every day that she wrote?
No. We pulled out the pictures together, chose the ones we wished to use, and then I made a list of the paragraphs that she should write. She would write the paragraphs. I would look at them and edit them, send them on to the publisher.
When Florida started writing the book, did she express any excitement over the idea?
No, I would say that she already had those skills. She is an extremely gifted writer, and we had worked so much on writing and editing that all I need to do with her now, if a sentence is clumsy or is off topic, I'll just simply say, how could you reword that? And she's actually a master at doing that.
What does Florida's story tell others?
Her story tells others that if you persevere, if you're honest with yourself, that you can actually achieve most goals that you set.
Florida has problems with her stamina. Are there any other issues that are unique to her story?
For children on the autism spectrum, there are many that share the same issues, not all, but many. It's very common to have dietary issues, stamina issues, things like that.
Her difficulty in distinguishing issues that are developmental versus issues that arise from the disorder, did they interfere a lot with her looking at the pictures, writing out the paragraphs, and expressing herself?
Not in terms of this book. However, that was a large part of the work that we had to do in the early days. For instance, autistic individuals tend to have obsessions, and one of her obsessions was drawing pictures. I would go to her house and none of the people had faces. It would bother me a great deal. So we had to work on how to incorporate what other people wanted to see in her pictures. In terms of writing, she would tend to get off topic or be too obsessed with details, and so that was a lot of the work that needed to be done in the beginning.
How was it dealing with Florida about the revisions? Were there difficulties with that, or did that go rather smoothly?
It went incredibly smoothly because of the work relationship that we had had initially when she had to edit something. It was an enormous problem. That was something that we had to work through at a much younger age. By the time that we got to the point of writing this book, we had an excellent working relationship. I did not need to revise very much at all. She is an extremely gifted writer. These are her words. I would give her issues that I was having with one of my kids and ask her for her perspective, because a lot of my children are nonverbal. So for me, it's a treat to have someone that is able to express what they're feeling so articulately.
You would go to her for counsel?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not an individual with autism, and she is. So who better to tell me? And she would be honest. Sometimes she would say, I don't know, I'm not like that. And other times she would say, I understand exactly how they're feeling.
Let me explore that with you. This is an interesting thing. Is she also aware of the fact that she's a gifted writer?
Yes.
In the sense that she really recognizes this?
She recognizes that it's one of her gifts, yes.
That must make her feel incredibly proud.
Not only does it make her feel proud, it makes her parents feel proud. It makes the people that have worked with her over the years feel proud. As her occupational therapist said, I am amazed that this child that could not string a full sentence together can communicate so beautifully now.
What do you attribute this to?
A lot of hard work, a willingness to work, and a motivation on her part. We as therapists or support personnel can help guide the child, but if the child doesn't want to do it, they're not going to do it. Florida made a choice when she realized she had a disability that she was going to work on those things that she wanted to work on, and writing was one of them.
Does Florida have plans to write another book?
She does, and she is so awesome because she understands that this book was a gift. It was given to her from her disability, and it was created out of the work that had already been done. And she has been spending this summer practicing writing. She has 3 different projects that she's working on now, and she is very serious about this.
It must be a signal, or it must give enormous hope to others that have children with the same disease, that they can lead a much more productive life than originally thought.
That is my hope. That is Florida's hope. That is her parents' hope, that the people that read this book find their own path and their own realization that there are a lot of opportunities for them.
The title of the book, How to Be Human, Diary of an Autistic Girl. Can you tell me a little more about the book?
The book is a compilation of a variety of social skills exercises that we did from the age of 8 until now. Most of them range between the ages of 8 and 12 because that's when I was working with her more intensively. And it's just an exploration of how she's had to navigate a world that seems confusing and chaotic and make order out of it, and to understand her place in it, and more importantly, what she wants to change and what she wants to keep about herself.
For those that don't know, myself included, does the autistic child see the world in chaos?
I believe so. I am reluctant to speak for children that cannot speak for themselves, but I have been working with these children for decades, and yes, I believe the world is chaos for them. That the sensory onslaught that they experience is far different from what we experience when we go out into the world. That can feel completely out of control for them. They can't filter all the different sounds that are coming in. They don't know which sound to pay attention to. So that can add a lot of confusion in their lives. If you don't understand what the terms that I use with Florida is shades of gray, and if you only see things in black and white and absolutes, everything that is not an absolute might confuse you.
How did you come up with the title of the book?
The publisher chose that. That was one of the ideas that came from Creston Books. Florida liked it, so she went with it.
Who did the illustration?
Florida originally drew the book cover. She was right about to start her sophomore year in high school. The original cover was a bit too cluttered. Marissa Moss actually changed it a bit and edited it. If we look at the cover, the face was done by Florida and the body was done by Marissa Moss.
How about an excerpt?
Absolutely. The world revolves around principles you just can't grasp. At school, students whisper and giggle. Even when the teacher silences them, nothing is silent like you would reasonably expect it to be. The students still create noise by shifting positions in their seats, which makes their pants rustle and their chairs squeak. The teacher can be just as noisy, pounding away on a laptop, turning the pages in a book, and occasionally clumping around the classroom. Your ears aren't the only sense being bombarded. Tiny fonts lead your eyes astray, so you can never find the correct line to start reading from. Perfumes cause your nose to stuff up. The texture of clothing on your skin or an unexpected touch from another person feels like someone dropped a slimy eel on you. The worst part about this is that the more it happens, the more it bothers you. Those yucky sensations don't leave your body as soon as you stop getting exposed to them. but instead continue echoing through your nervous system, jarring every